Well, hey there, friendships. Welcome back to another Curtis's Corner. If you're new here, hi, I'm Curtis. This is my corner, and on today's Film Friday video, we are going to discuss none other than James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which is released on August 6th, today, in theaters everywhere. It is also streaming on HBO Max, so if you don't want to go to the theaters, you can watch it in the comfort of your own home. So, if you are interested in hearing my thoughts, what I have to say about this movie, giving my rating on this movie, and comparing it to the other Suicide Squad movie, then keep on watching. So, James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, along with other lesser-known projects that are more cult classics now, like the horror movie Slither, he ended up directing this movie. He wanted to give everybody in the DC comics a very gritty, still humorous, but very gritty, gory take on the Suicide Squad, which is, in a way, a good thing. Now, I will say, someone on TikTok that I follow, Spencer, his TikTok handle is House of Geeks. He said, and I do slightly agree with him, that when you are creating a movie, you should be doing so not just for the fan base that it's for, but you want to market it so it can be for everybody. That being said, not a lot of children are going to be able to see this movie. With the copious amounts of swearing that go on in the film, the amount of gore that goes on in the film, and there is one quick blink and you'll miss it scene of nudity, and it is strictly just for comedy. However, that being said, this movie is fantastic. I still absolutely love the first Suicide Squad movie. I wasn't so keen on Birds of Prey. If you missed that review, you can go ahead and click up there and I will link it for you so you can check out my thoughts on Birds of Prey. But I went into this movie not knowing literally anything, because the only thing that I knew is that, you know, these group of people, some of the cast that are reprising the roles from the first Suicide Squad film, they're all getting together and, you know, fighting this giant starfish. That's all that I knew about this film. However, they do, without saying so, they do keep Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad canon. It is still part of the DCEU. Because Harley's tattoos, the one on her shoulder at the back, in Suicide Squad and in Birds of Prey, it said property of the Joker, or property of Joker. Now, in this one, it says property of no one. So she's like free on her own. She still has all the same tattoos. There's just slight alterations to some of them. The one that was right here on her chest, she had it in previous films that said Daddy's Little Monster. Now it says Daddy's Little X-Monster, which I didn't notice. Sabrina, my friend that I went with, she noticed it and pointed it out to me. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then, it's not a spoiler because it's right at the very beginning. It's a very quick throwaway line, but it just links everything together. When Harley gets onto the aircraft when they're going to go do their mission, Captain Boomerang is there and he just looks at her and is like, what are you doing back in prison again? And then she gives her answer. But it shows, you know, she was in prison, she broke out, she was on doing her own thing in Birds of Prey, and now she's back in prison. So it is a continuation of this whole universe that's following Harley Quinn. So, as I said, we have Margot Robbie reprising her role as Harley Quinn. So good. I do wish she had a little bit more screen time in this film, but for the amount of screen time that she did have, she was still a good prominent role in the film. She did a very good job at reprising this role and still staying true to Harley, but just amping it slight bit more. Idris Elba as Bloodsport, I didn't think I was going to like him. I like Idris Elba, but I did not. His character in all the trailers did not seem to entice me on really wanting to see this film. Boy, was I wrong. He delivered such good action. He delivered such good motivation. Such good comedy. Everything that his character did was fantastic. Way better than Will Smith's Deadshot. John Cena is in this film as a new character as well, called Peacemaker. I'm not a big John Cena being an actor fan. I could have done without him or have a different actor portray Peacemaker. He was okay. Nothing was overly hilarious of things that he did, but with what he was given, he did an alright job. Joel Kinnaman reprises his role as Rick Flag. You have Jai Courtney, who reprises his role as Captain Boomerang, and Viola Davis reprising her role as Amanda Waller. That is what made me confused at first, was because those four, Margot Robbie and the other three that I just mentioned, reprising their roles, but yet people kept saying, no, this is like a reboot, it's a reboot, it's a reboot, it's not, it's a new storytelling of it all. But it's not. It is still a continuation of everything that we've learned from before. And you see that with the interactions between Rick and Harley as well. So I like that they're keeping it without throwing it blatantly in your face that it is a continuation. Could you watch this one as a standalone thing without seeing the other two Harley films? Absolutely. But knowing that you've seen Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, it just adds a little more to that character, and you can kind of see why she acts the way that she does in this film. Michael Rooker is in this as Savant. You have Nathan Fillion in here as TDK, and I will say, yes, it is confirmed, he is the detachable kid. All the rumors were correct. I went in expecting it to be the detachable kid, and then they had mentioned the name, the detachable kid, in the film, so I am happy that it is that and not just like something random and made up. Flula Borg is Javelin in this. Mei Ling Ing, I think that's how you pronounce it, is Mongol. I think that's how you pronounce the character. Pete Davidson is Blackguard. Sean Gunn, who portrayed Weasel. David Dastmalchian was Polka Dot Man. Storm Reid was in this, as you see in the trailers as well, portraying Bloodsport's daughter. And when I say the last time I saw her was in A Wrinkle in Time, which is a Disney-made movie, and now I see her in this dropping F-bombs, oh my Lanta. I was slightly shocked, just saying. And then, one thing I did not know, I had no idea why, I don't even know if it says in the trailer, it probably does, but King Shark, which they don't actually call King Shark in the film, they call him by this other name, it's almost like his species or something, I don't know. Sylvester Stallone voices him. I did not know this, and I don't understand why, because it does sound like him, but it's like, at the same time, it doesn't, so. And then, obviously, Peter Capaldi is in this as well as the Thinker. Now, this, as I said, this is an R rating. Don't take your children to it, unless you really don't care about them seeing people explode, heads explode, bodies being ripped apart in half, people being eaten, people being shot in the head, shot in the chest, in the stomach, you name it. The amount of gore that there is, it's wonderful. The swearing was a lot. There was a lot. Like a lot. But do I think it was excessive? Maybe a little bit. I think they could have lessened the amount of swearing that went on. There was like a good whole scene between Storm Reid and Bloodsport where they're like talking over like the jail phone, and they're just literally dropping F-bombs back and forth to each other, and it's like, is this really necessary? Not really, but okay. Visually, the visuals in this one were like 3 times as good as the visuals in Suicide Squad, the first one. They are, I would say, a little bit better than the visuals that are in Birds of Prey, because I really enjoyed the visuals in Birds of Prey. But this one definitely brought a lot of visuals, and there's like a whole fight sequence with Harley where she's like attacking people, and you just see like these like butterflies and flowers and everything kind of explode behind her, and all of that is just like, it's just the essence of Harley Quinn. It's while she's causing all this mass destruction and killing all these people, they're just replacing all the gore with all these butterflies and chickens and flowers just exploding. So like, if she were to like shoot someone in the head, for example, I don't even remember if she did shoot someone in the head, but if she were to shoot someone in the head, instead of blood just going like boom out the back, it would be flowers going through. And it's all like cartoons. It's wonderful. It's very much Harley Quinn's mind. Action sequences, fantastic. Way better than the first Suicide Squad. I would say they're probably on par with Birds of Prey. I loved those action sequences. They were really well done. Story-wise, it kind of jumped here and there, but I can see why they did it. They wanted to show everything that was kind of happening at once, but they didn't want to take away from everything that was happening. It definitely followed a linear path, but when it came to a certain point, they would stop and be like, okay, well, 3 days earlier, or 8 minutes earlier, or all of this stuff is happening, but meanwhile, while that scene was happening, this scene is also happening. So they showed things where it was like just slightly before everything happened that you just saw, and then you kind of like see things in the background. It's like, oh, okay, this is what happened, and that's how that happened, and okay. So it's just like connecting all the pieces. So I did like how they did that. At the same time, I kind of do wish that they did kind of like a back and forth, just to kind of keep it like a perfectly linear instead of constantly jumping back. But they did it, and it was nice. I'm just going to tell you right now, people that die, you're probably going to be shocked who dies in this film. There are copious amounts of deaths. Both Suicide Squad members, because it is a Suicide Squad movie, and you can't have a Suicide Squad movie without some of the main characters actually dying, because that would just be too perfect, and things obviously have to go wrong. But I was shocked with some of the deaths that were in this film, and just some of the ways that people died I was shocked with. Not characters per se, but just like people in general, like how the characters kill people. I was like, oh my god, what is actually happening? Like, definition of a comic book movie because of how crazy it was. Do I think it would have been perfect? And I know everyone's take on Jared Leto's Joker is like, he's the worst, he's the worst, he's the worst. Honestly, I don't think he is the worst, personally. I think Warner Brothers did him very dirty, and they took out all of his parts, basically, and just made him a cameo in the film, which is not what he signed up for. So, I think it would have been cool. He doesn't, but I think it would have been cool if he did make kind of like an appearance near the end, or like in a post-credit scene, just to really stir things up. But there is, speaking of, there is a post-credit scene, so do stay until the very, very end of the credits, because there is a post-credit scene, and there could potentially be a third Suicide Squad movie. So, but do I think the characters in this were better than the characters in the first one? Yes and no. I enjoyed Harley way more in the first Suicide Squad than in this one, because she was just, it was very Harley amped up to 11. This one, I would say Harley around like a 9, whereas Birds of Prey was probably Harley at like a 7. So, not as good as she was in the first one, but it's to be expected. You've now played the character 3 times. You're going to start going a little bit downhill. You need to take a break and then come back to her after a couple years. Do I think the villain, Starro, the big giant starfish, is better than the Enchantress from the first one and the big giant cloud smoke thing in the sky? 100%, yes. I was hoping Enchantress was actually going to be part of the Suicide Squad in the first one, but she wasn't, and it was dumb. But that's okay. This one, definitely way better villain, for sure. Rick Flag was definitely an improvement in this one. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller was definitely an improvement. I enjoyed Jai Courtney in the first one more than I did in this one. But yeah, there's not too much to say. I think it's totally worth the money that you want to spend to go and see this film. It is great. And if someone were to ask me to go and see it again, I probably would, because I enjoy it. I wouldn't see it maybe more than twice in theaters, but I think it is a really well done film, and James Gunn is showing that he knows what filmmaking is and how to make a proper film for the DCEU. With all of this information being said, I'm going to give The Suicide Squad an A. Well done film. Definitely, if you have the chance to go and watch it and you do enjoy comic book representation movies, do go and watch it. I strongly encourage it. It is a really well done film. And yeah, so that is my review for The Suicide Squad. So if you enjoyed my review, or if you are planning on going to see it, if you have seen it and want to leave your comments down below as well, make sure you give this video a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I put out weekly videos, and hit that notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video, because if you don't, how else are you going to know when I post a video? You won't, so do it. I am now off to film a different review for Monday. I have a brand new collection, so stay tuned for that. But until then, bye friendships.